Today we go from the half-finished structure of the station to a finished model that's ready to take its place on the layout. Hi everyone, I'm Martin and welcome back to Donnington Castle Model Railway, and welcome to part 2 of building the main station for the Heritage Line. Now in part 1 we made some good progress with background research and getting started with the build. If you missed any of that, then there'll be a link up in the top corner. But I won't waste any more time. We'll get straight back in to the build and pick things from where we left off in the last video. And just to remind you, this is where we left things after the first video. So we've got the main structure of the building done. The roof is mostly in place. Doors and windows are fitted. And now we're really looking at the extra bits of detail that are going to really lift this from a basic model into hopefully a good replica of Newbury Station. Just one quick thing to note about this video. When I made the model, I did lots of things at the same time. But what I've done is I've split them up a little bit more logically for the purposes of showing you what I did. So you may see some shots where we've moved on a little bit or gone back a bit, but don't worry, I will talk about everything that I did in hopefully a fairly logical order. And this next set of pieces is really easy to design. We've got our chimney stacks, which we'll see in a little bit more detail shortly, but we've got a thinner section at the bottom and a thicker section at the top, and a double width chimney for either end and a single width chimney in the middle. Chimney pots, same technique as I used on Lambourne, piece of 5mm plywood, cut with a circle and then fill engraved in the middle to hollow out the chimney pot, and the settings you can hopefully see on screen give you a good fill cut. So that's speed of 3000 and a power of 60, and that's done horizontally and vertically. And then the other pieces, these are our stone coping for the top of the ends of the gable roofs. Just that little bit of extra fancy stonework that went into Newbury Station. And here we have basically the ridging tiles. This isn't the complete one because I also engraved these into 6mm lengths, so you can see the individual tiles on those. And again, all those will be cut out, and we'll see what the result was. You can see all of the bits. So I've just made lots of chimney pots. I made them in a couple of different sizes just so I could try them out. See the ridge tiles there. And that thin strip I used to decorate round the chimney. There are a few more roofing tiles you can see there. Those are some boards for some posters, which we'll come on to shortly, and some planks of wood, which again, I'll show you what I use those for shortly as well. The reason I wasn't so fussed about there being gaps between some of the roofing sections was that I knew these tiles were going to go on over the top. As you can see, those fit on quite nicely. I just need to make sure there's the correct angle with the pitch of the roof. They will be glued on. They look a bit orange here, so I will go over that with a little bit of the Revel brick just to match that up to the colour of the tiles. The lighting here is a little bit yellow. You can see I've started to assemble some of the chimney stacks, and here I'm painting the chimney pots. I just pop them on some blue tack, on this case on the back of an old train ticket, and then can paint those up. And then with the roof tiles along the top of the roof section, I couldn't cut them in a full length. So what I've done is I've put the joins where the chimney stacks are going to be. So when the chimneys go on over the top, you hopefully won't see that. This is the chimneys now with the top and bottom sections on. Chimney pots are on some small pieces of wood and they will go on top. This final piece of roof needs to be cut much more precisely, as that needs to fit right up against the sections on the gable ends. On the ends, I've added some small pieces of laserboard painted grey, and they are going to represent the gutters that fit in those spaces in reality. And what that means is that whilst there is a little gap, if you look through, you just see the gutter and you don't see into the roof section. And to fill those little gaps on the other end of the gable ends, I've just cut some small triangles with brick pattern on and painted them up in exactly the same way as I have done with everything else. They will have some stone coping on the top. We'll get to that very shortly. When I built Lambourne Station, it was quite rightly pointed out that I hadn't had any flashing around the chimneys. So this time I want to do things properly. These are cut from laser board. You can see what they look like in Lightburn. And I just fold up a little tab, paint them a silvery grey, and hopefully they will do for our flashing. Now here we are with that roof section glued into place, the chimney pots, the chimney stacks fully assembled and stuck down, and that flashing just added around them. I will blend that in a little bit more when we get to weathering. But the roof is now looking pretty good. Now, as you might have noticed in some of the other photos, there was a good deal of expense spent on adding stonework into Newbury Station. So I've created here some coping stones around the end of the gable ends, just to make those look a little bit more like Newbury Station. And here around the back, you might just be able to see how I've added coping on top of those brick triangles as well, and then filled around those with roof tiles and the flashing, and that all feels like that's come together very nicely. You'll spot here the only problem with my approach with the roof sections is we have a small hole under here. I will get some filler and just fill that in and paint that up, and that won't be very obvious when looking at the layout anyway. Next up are the drain pipes, and I'll be completely honest here that I didn't look closely enough at the ones on Newbury before I made the main structure of the building. So I've decided to opt for the standard approach, which is to get some kits. As you can see, these are the ratio ones. In future, I might hand make some of these, but for now, this was an option. And I've got the downpipes, the gutters, and then the fixings. As you can see, paint those up in dark stone, drill some holes to fix the guttering in, and then use super glue just to stick everything down. So in terms of the narrative of this station and the layout's set mid-70s, so the idea is that the heritage line is preserved railway in its very early days. So I want this station to look like a building that has been abandoned since the line was closed in maybe the mid-60s, so maybe about 10 years worth of decay has set in. And the volunteers have done some work to do the easy bits, so they've painted the window frames, they maybe done a little bit of painting of drain pipes and stuff like that. But there's still a lot of work still to do, so the main structure of the roof maybe hasn't been looked at, and maybe there's other little bits of damage around the building. And one thing I thought might be nice to do is to have some boarded up windows. So what I thought I would do is create some tarpaulin and some wooden planks. So the tarp is made from an old plastic bag. It was actually packaging that something came in. That's been cut into the shape of the window, given a bit of a crumple, given some washes. And then those small pieces of laser cut 1mm balsa have just been cut to the right shape, painted brown, and fixed over the windows as if they've been boarded up. And the idea is just to give that sense that this is a building that is trying to come back to life, but there's still work to do. Another interesting thing that I thought to do was to create a bird's nest, probably a crow's nest, in one of the chimneys. So that is some coir, a pair of scissors, just snip the ends off till you've got a pile of little pieces. I dropped a drop of PVA into the chimney pot, dropped all of those little pieces of coir in there, and then once the glue had dried, just gave it a little bit of a haircut to make it look like a crow's nest. Thought that might be interesting to then create a little scene once we've got some figures of maybe a chimney sweep and a volunteer looking up at the roof and maybe pointing at the nest that needs clearing out of the chimney pot. And then another effect was just to use, in this case, I think it was just a piece of finished moss to look like a plant that had started growing up on the roof. Again, this is the kind of thing that might be a little bit more difficult to fix immediately after the station had been taken over. Next, I went for some moss. Now, moss grows principally on the northern sides of buildings, certainly up here in the northern hemisphere. So to create this effect, I mixed a couple of colours of Woodland Scenic's fine turf into a bowl, and then applied dots of PVA. Now, moss principally grows on the joins between tiles, and particularly along ridge tiles. So that's where I focused the little dots of glue, went over that with the fine turf, let the glue dry, and then just brushed off the excess. And that just left a very nice effect of what looks like moss. I left most of the south side, which is the main entrance to the building. I put some moss on there, but not as much, just to mimic what happens in reality. And something else I'm really familiar with at the moment is where grass gets into your gutters and doesn't get cleaned out. Usually leaves build up, they rot down, seeds land, and things grow. So I've decided to create lots of small clumps of grass. This is really easy to do. Piece of greaseproof paper, some dots of various sizes of PVA, and then get out the static grass applicator and just go over that. Leave that to dry, shake off the excess, and you've got yourself some little clumps of grass. So I popped a couple onto the ridge of the roof up against the chimneys, and then put one in one of the gutters. I then weathered underneath that to represent where the water was overflowing and running down the wall. Now, I wanted to add some signage to the station. One thing I will just very quickly mention is that if you want to use posters, particularly real-life posters, then you do need to be very mindful of copyright. And that copyright might exist from the original designer, but also from anyone who has photographed or scanned it. So I will leave that with you to think about how you might handle that on your own layouts. An alternative to that is to make your own. From our research, I'm going to be inspired to make the parking limit sign that we saw from the 1970s, and also a Newbury's sign. These are made in PowerPoint. Microsoft offer a free Office 365 version of that fits the bill. Otherwise, there are lots of other both online and desktop tools you can use, whether that's Canva or GIMP and things like that. All I did was to create these, print them out using a color laser printer onto some standard paper, cut around them, and then use Pritt Stick to fix them on. And another effect that's come out quite subtle in this case, to simulate some advertising that's been taken down, I put some card against the brickwork, painted around that with a wash, and when you take it away, you just see the hint of an outline of those old advertising signs. Next up is to replicate some of the twiddly bits, or probably more correctly, architectural features. For example, this, I believe, is a finial, and this is a pilaster, with the banding being called coining. But I am not an architectural expert. If I've got that wrong, please do let me know. So to create these, I turned to Tinkercad, which is online free, quite basic, but actually quite powerful at the same time, 3D modeling tool. So using some of the basic shapes, I'm able to create that pilaster column with a cone-shaped bottom, and then that round ball there is seen on one of the pilasters at Newbury Station. The rest have been removed or fell down at some point in history, quite a long time ago, I think, but there is still one there. So on my model, I'm going to put 3 of them in there and then have one empty. So it's kind of the inverse, I guess, of the way Newbury is, and that's how it'll look in reality. And there is that little apex finial, which again is just a pyramid shape and a rectangle shape stuck together. Those are exported as STL files, which are then imported into the slicing tool that I use, which is called Cura, because these are going to be made on the 3D printer. This thing's quite tiny, so when we slice it, you will see, because I'm using a 0.4mm nozzle, which is quite coarse, you get, you can see all of the actual lines that are going to be put in place by the printer, and it is quite coarse, as I say, but in this case, it's going to be fine. I had a very interesting conversation with CD Models down in Devon. I highly recommend going along and taking a look in their new shop if you're ever down in that part of the world. It's in Barnstaple. Really great people, lots of really interesting stuff there, so I do recommend them. And we were talking about using 0.2 and even 0.1 mil nozzles on 3D printers, so that's something I need to see if I can get working on mine. Even with the 0.4 mil nozzle, these are the pilasters. I've masked off the areas that are going to be stone color and painted those up in orange and used the same technique as the brickwork. And then you can see the other items there are painted in that stone color. As you can see, these are 3/4 cylindrical, so they're hopefully going to fit onto the corners of the building and fit in nicely. And as you can see, here they are. Looking at this, I think those ball finials are a little bit bigger than in reality, but I don't think they look too over scale. And there's the finials on the top there. And then to finish things off, some weathering. I am certainly no expert at this, so I thought I would give one technique a go and try and film it, so holding the camera whilst doing it. This is black wash. It's just acrylic paint with some water mixed up into a little bottle. Then I'm applying that with a paintbrush, and then just using my finger to streak that down and rub that in to the gaps. And I think that added quite a nice effect. Where it was too light, I just went over it with a couple of coats, but just using effectively this technique. So I'm not in any way an expert at this, but this felt like it worked quite well. And then after that, I used some weathering powders, again, always streaking downwards to mimic the effects of rain and gravity. So I use this technique on the roof and then also on the walls themselves, and particularly where there's areas of paint that were a little bit bright maybe, and also on the joins between where I hadn't got the colour of paint quite right. So I blended those colours together by using that effect. And then once all that was done, I decided to seal everything in place by using some matte aerosol varnish. So to protect the window glass, I used the card sections that were cut out from the windows when that was originally laser cut. I popped those into the gaps and then just sprayed over everything with the varnish. And that's hopefully sealed all the weathering powders and washes in. And hopefully it just darkens down and dulls the effect slightly and produces, hopefully, a nice looking station. And here is the building over on the layout. I think that fits in really well. I haven't mentioned anything about the platforms yet. Don't worry, those will be in an upcoming video. But now I've got to this stage, let's just go back to the real building and see how faithful a reproduction this actually is. So now we're pretty much done. Let's just have a look back and see what features we have captured and what might not be exactly the same. So you'll notice that there are lamps on the building here. This is something I'll come back and revisit when I do the station interior. I'm not going to worry about those for now. Name sign, I don't even know what the station's called yet, so again we can revisit this. Some things that are slightly different. I used external drain pipes. On here, you can see on Newbury Station that those are recessed into the wall. That's something I might have a go at on future buildings, but not. I'm not going to worry too much about that here. I think what I've got's fine. Otherwise, some of the architectural features that we've obviously talked about, general chimney work. Otherwise, I think we're in pretty good shape. I haven't seen any lightning conductors on here. That probably are. So that's something that, if they are there, I haven't looked at. There were a couple of vents in the building. Again, I've not replicated those. But otherwise, particularly from this side of the building, I think we're in pretty good shape. And as I said at the start, this isn't about creating a replica of Newbury Station. This is about being inspired by it. And I would hope you'd agree that if you were to look at the model and look at this building, you would think that they are the same, which is really what I was after. Now, I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. It was a lot of effort to put together and took quite a bit of time, but I think that's going to really set off that station area very nicely. I think it captures an essence of the prototype without necessarily being a full and faithful reproduction. The inside of the building is still to do. My idea is to create effectively an inside set of rooms on a base that station can slot over the top of, meaning that I can remove that and gain access if needed. But that, as they say, is a topic for another day. Just reflecting on the process a little bit, I didn't create a prototype for this. If I had done, would the station have come out any better? I think underneath some of the embellishments, the main structure of the building might have been a little bit neater. But I don't think the overall look and feel has suffered as a result of not creating that prototype. Obviously, if I were to make another one for another layout somewhere, then I could use all the adaptations and improvements that I've learned about whilst making this and take that into the next version. But otherwise, I'm really happy with that process, and I really like this technique of using that 2mm MDF skeleton and then coating that in patterned and engraved card to give that sense, because that gives a really strong structure. MDF is very plentiful and it's easy to get bits the right size, and so I think that's a technique that I'll be using again in the future. I am, as an aside, I am partway through building the structure that's going to sit on the other side of the station, and I've used a different method for that. You will see that when I finish that video, but I much prefer this approach to the one I'm using on that one. Now, just to remind everyone that anything I create on the channel, whether it be 3D printed items or laser cut, I am more than happy to release the STL files or the Lightburn files to anybody who can make use of them. They're always released under a Creative Commons license that enables you to do whatever you want with them, with the exception of selling them commercially. I do put that restriction on them. So if you are interested, get in contact with the email address that appears in the channel information, and I'll be able to get that over to you if you fancy your own version of Newbury Station. Now, plenty more to be doing on the layout. Obviously, lots more work to do on that station area and various other projects. I think I've really benefited from focusing on just one project for a bit. I've got lots of projects that are half finished, but hopefully I can get some progress made on those and then share some more videos of that very soon. And hopefully we'll see the layout starting to move forwards. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been useful and there's some things of interest to you in your own modelling. I hope to see you on another video soon, and I will catch you all soon. Bye for now.